Traditionally, when we honor a person who has passed away, we visit the grave and/or light a candle. On the occasion of the birthday of our beloved Bishop Dorick Wright, Bishop Lawrence Nicasio did just that. Today, in our feature story, we take a look at the life of a man who possessed quiet fortitude.
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for the Lord has anointed me. He has sent me to bring good news to the meek, so as to heal the contrite of heart, to preach leniency to captives, and release to the confined.
Born in Belize City on November 15, 1945, Bishop Dorick Wright grew up in Holy Redeemer Parish. He attended Holy Redeemer Boys' School and was quite active as an altar boy. It was in attending St. John's College where his faith strengthened and he found his call to the priesthood.
So I served Mass here and there. And then after I got to high school, I needed a job to bring in money, not a whole lot. I got a job working at the presbytery, and I have been around this place for a long time. He reminisced as captured in the book Years of Grace, written by Charles M. Woods.
We spoke to his longtime friend Mark Lizarraga about the person of Bishop Wright.
What do I remember about Bishop Wright? I think the most memorable thing is his humility. I saw Bishop Wright struggle with his disease. I saw him gradually go blind, and I saw him as the diabetes slowly began to take over his life. But through all this, Bishop Wright kept his humility. He kept on caring for others, and he kept on being so concerned for his Belizean people and his flock. It's admirable to see somebody, and I guess the lesson we could learn from him is to someone bear his cross with so much humility, while still maintaining a very active sense of humor. One Christmas, the bishop came to visit me and to have lunch. And he was already beginning to lose some weight. And when I received him, I held both his hands. I held his hand in both my hands, and I was genuinely pleased to have him. And when I was shaking his hands, I felt his bishop's ring very loose on his hand. And I guess the mischievousness came into me, and I tried to slip his ring off his finger. And the look on my dear bishop's face remains with me to this day, the shock. And he accused me of trying to steal his ring. So, farther down the road, when the Pope was going to make a visit to the region, it coincided with his inaugurating his chapel, his private chapel. And we were invited, a group of his close friends, I guess, were invited to this ceremony. And in his homily, while we did Mass, of course, he said, I know many of you have heard that the Pope is visiting the region, and he was considering visiting Belize. But he's not coming because he heard that somebody in Belize wants to steal his ring. And of course, very few of us knew what he was referring to, and we had to tell most of our friends that it was not true. It was a joke, of course. And the bishop was just making a jab at me. But he had an excellent sense of humor and could always end that evening with something hopeful and joyous.
One of the turning points in Bishop Wright's life was when tragedy struck his family. As just a teen, he suffered the catastrophic loss of his mom, 2 sisters, and a brother as a result of Hurricane Hattie, which struck Belize in 1961. He and his father were indeed the only survivors from his immediate family. This experience drew him closer to his God and served to fortify his conviction to become a priest. He was ordained on 27th June, 1975. We had a chance to sit down with Father Noel Leslie, then Vicar General.
As a priest, Bishop Wright was known for his, I would say his friendliness. He was quite jovial, always ready to run a joke with those he's conversing with. He could turn a sad situation into a joyful one by his remarks. And so it was kind of what I call a joyful person to be in company with on special occasions and so forth. I would say also that he was quite firm in his faith. You know, as a Catholic, he knew what was expected of him as a Catholic priest, and he expected Catholics to know what was expected of them. So at times he had to make some certain corrections, and of course some people would become upset, but he saw it as necessary to correct, because that was a part of his duty as a priest or as a pastor. Let's put it this way, he went through a rough time, in the sense that he lost his 2 sisters, his younger brother, and his mother in Hurricane Hattie. And so he had to weather the storms as he journeyed through life, working along with his father. But luckily, I must say, because of his friendliness, his joviality, he was able to carry on, because there were many people who enjoyed his company. For example, as a teenager, I used to meet with him along with others regularly, and we used to just meet and chat, go to movies, and so forth. And so he was able to carry on as a normal person because of others in the community. He also worked at the Catholic Presbytery. Again, there he was able to encounter many of the Jesuit fathers and brothers and people who came there. Eventually, after his graduation from high school, he entered the teaching profession. Again, that's another way of not only meeting younger folks, but also their parents and members of the wider community. So his encounters with people enabled him to be able to keep on moving on in spite of the losses he experienced in life. A bishop carries a crozier. A crozier has the shape of a shepherd's staff. And shepherds carry a staff to guide flock, and to also, in case of attack by any wild animals, to see how they can defend. So the shepherd's staff, the crozier, is a symbol of what he's called to be as a leader. That there are occasions when he'd have to stand up for our Catholic beliefs, Christian principles, and so forth, and that will sometimes bring about ridicule, but that's all a part of his work. And not to exercise that particular aspect of his ministry would be to fail in carrying his duties of a bishop and what is expected of him as a leader. When he was appointed as a bishop, it was first as an auxiliary bishop. So Bishop Martin was at the head of the ship, he was the captain, and so he was the leader. The auxiliary bishop simply assisted the the sitting bishop. When he took over, it wasn't too long after he became bishop of the diocese that he became ill. And I would say that his illness is, and I mentioned this when he died, that his illness prevented him from really exercising the kind of leadership he'd have wanted. So, to a certain degree, we cannot fully evaluate his leadership because that was interrupted, because his illness affected him in various ways, Eventually began to lose his sight. Again, that really hindered his ministry. And so he had to rely on the help of others to be able to read documents and to be able to receive their assistance in interpreting, so that he could give what we call a reasonable answer that was needed at a particular time. His last days were, I would say, days of struggle, dealing with his illness. But those he encountered, many times he'd meet them on his way to his treatment for dialysis and so forth, or when they'd bring him back to the presbytery, to the bishop's house, and he'd be brought out of the vehicle, he'd transport the elevator and so forth. He'd meet people, and he was able to converse with them the best he possibly could. But he realized that life was coming to an end. This earthly existence was coming to an end. I must say that on a couple of occasions, he did manifest some frustrations. But that happens in life of people who are very sick, where you ask many questions. Even your faith is tried at times. You might say, why did this have to happen to me? And so forth. But that's natural. But maintain the faith. Continue to believe in God and loving God and looking forward to a new life, that which you preach about all your life anyway. I believe that was still the very center of his life as life slowly came to an end for him.
As a priest, Father Dorick Wright served at St. Joseph Parish, La Immaculada Parish, and of course, Holy Redeemer Parish. On April 4th, 2002, he was ordained to the episcopacy at Landiver Gym, becoming the auxiliary to Bishop Martin. He became bishop of the diocese on 23rd January 2007. After his consecration, Bishop Wright spoke out on a wide range of societal issues, including education, violence, and homosexuality. He addressed difficult issues head-on, even though his eyesight began to fail him due to a diabetic condition. He appeared at demonstrations, but yet exhibited a knowing resignation and wry sense of humor, like his comments on not refusing individuals in the communion line despite his personal convictions. Indeed, his interests were wide and varied, as his friend recalls.
He cared for his flock and his people. Interacting with people was so important to him. And in the later days, when he couldn't go down to meet people after Mass, it really and truly affected him, I believe. Because Bishop Wright, as I knew him, was a truly people person. I remember in the early days, when I was a very young man, I had recently opened my business. He used to come by, he used to bring communion for some people in the neighborhood. And he always used to come in, and we used to suck an ideal together. He would have an ideal, I'd have an ideal, and we'd discuss the issues of the world over that ideal. And I look forward to those encounters with him. They were always refreshing and important, but always in a spirit of humor as well. He would listen. He was an incredible listener. Even when you thought he wasn't listening, he was listening and recording. And at some stage, he would come back to you seeking input if he wanted input, or seeking clarity if he needed clarity. But to be honest with you, in most instances, I think he had a good grasp, and he had this ability to ask for help when he needed some input, But he was very wise. Bishop was a very wise and patient person, very humble. His concerns were many. His concerns, believe it or not, were very broad. I mean, he wasn't limited at all. He wanted to be informed of a lot of the national issues, because, of course, all those issues affected his flock. And his greatest concern was his people, the development and the growth of his people, not only spiritually, but holistically. So the bishop was well-rounded, I believe. So I guess in a nutshell, his humility was really outstanding. His ability, even though as a bishop, recognizing his limitations, his capacity, and reaching out, being able to reach out for advice and input from people that he trusted. That displays a lot of humility to me. His caring, again, I repeat myself, and his concern for his Belizean people, his flock and his country. Those are the big things that I think bear remembering from my good friend, our Bishop Wright.
Perhaps his comments at his last celebrated Chrism Mass can best define his motivations and serve us all as a most beautiful exhortation as we continue to maneuver in the new season and beyond.
And I cannot think of a better way in which we can profess our faith to others. And so it is good that we join in this manifestation of faith. It is said that Jesus had gone to the temple for his inaugural address, and when he got there, they gave him the book, handed to him, quotation from the prophet Isaiah. And he chose that passage. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me. He has anointed me, etc. And I'm certain that many of us like to use this passage because everybody was anxious to hear what he had to say. Everybody wanted to know what he was about. He had done so many things before. So people were anxious. They wanted to hear him. It's like a young man celebrating Mass for the first time. He goes up there to the microphone, and everybody's listening, want to hear what has he to say. And that is the same way it was. And so the Spirit of the Lord God is upon us. We are all joined in this faith. We're all joined in confidence. And we have that confidence that Jesus will guide us this evening as we profess our faith in him and as we profess our faith in what we're saying or about to say. So the Lord God is upon us. It's not the first time that He will do this, that He will show His faith. No, it is not. And so He proclaims that God is with us this evening. He has given us His belief. He has shown us and taught us the way. And Jesus is with us wherever we go. He is with us this evening. He is joining with us this evening in this faith proclamation. So we are all joining in this manifestation of faith. We're all joining with Him. It seems like very much like this will be my last proclamation of faith. But He will always be with us. Jesus will be with us forever. We might proclaim His goodness to us, but He is there with us. This evening we proclaim Him as the Son of God, and we are proclaiming His message. We proclaim that He is the Son of God. And so let us not just proclaim in this faith, but let us live this faith. Let us live this faith to its fullest. We are not only professing it, but we will take this to our grave. The Spirit of God is upon us, and it will be with us. So let us not shun our responsibilities. Let us not become shy, but instead, let us become bold, and let us see that God has called all of us to proclaim His message. And we take this message back home with us. We teach it to our children, to our families. We teach it to everyone. The Lord God is upon us because He has proclaimed us. He has proclaimed His faith in us. Let us now, not our faith only in Him, but also profess our faith that we believe in Him and all that He has given us to proclaim in His message. May God bless all of you.
Bishop Dorick McGowan Wright, born November 15, 1945, died April 15, 2020. May our dear Bishop and all the souls of the faithful departed rest in perpetual peace.